Hello, my name is Mitchell Williams. I'm the row crops and livestock agent here in Lee County. I'm with North Carolina Cooperative Extension, and today I'm with Mr. A.K. Griffin on his farm, Griffin's Evergreens. Mr. Griffin?
I'm A.K. Griffin, and about 50 years ago, in 1970, a friend of mine where I worked talked me into planting a few Christmas trees.
Mr. Griffin, Preston wants to know, when are the trees fully grown?
They don't really quit growing. When we plant them out here in the field, the white pines are ready to go to market anywhere from 6 to 8 years. But they'll keep growing beyond that and get too big for most Christmas trees. But they're not wasted. There's a lot of good foliage there, and if it gets too big to cut for our customers, we start cutting the limbs off to use for wreath foliage, because we do make wreaths at Christmas. And we have done that on several big trees here. The Leland cypress, we can start cutting those in about 5 years, 4 to 5 years. Same with the green giant arborvitae. Now the Mummy fir, like we're standing next to right here, it will grow here in Lee County. It does fairly well. It's not real popular as a Christmas tree, but it's worth having a few here for some of the customers. It's slower growing. That tree right there in front of us is only about, not even head high good. It's been there about 6 years.
Okay.
Someone wanted a small tree. I mean, it could be cut now. Another 2 or 3 years, it'll be on up big enough for a living room tree, maybe. Grows slower, but it makes a pretty tree.
Okay.
And very stiff needles, very sharp needles. And that's a lot of people don't like that.
Right.
But it's one of the firs that will grow here.
All right, Mr. Griffin, Henry wants to know how many trees you have on your farm.
I don't know, I haven't counted lately. I have approximately 3 acres in Christmas trees.
Okay.
Maybe a little more. We have cut trees over the years, and we have replanted, and it's constantly planting and cutting. And I've quit bothering to count.
Right, I understand.
And I've got empty space right now that in the next year will probably be planted to bring it up. I have trees in pots in my nursery at home that I can bring over and plant. I've got some that have just been planted in the past few months, a little over knee high. And that will, a few years be coming up, be beautiful trees.
Lillian in Brooklyn really want to know what a Christmas tree seed looks like.
Christmas tree seed.
Yes, sir.
It depends on the variety of the tree. The white pine looks like pine seed. It comes out of the cone. It'll spin down to the ground if it's out in the wild and take root, and germinate. Leland cypress does not make good seed. Only way to get another Leland cypress and the green giant arborvitae is to take a cutting from it and root it.
Mr. Griffin, I know you said you've been doing this for 50 years. How is your family involved in this operation?
Well, my 2 sons, as they got old enough to help me in the trees, they came through the Christmas tree lot. I have 4 grandchildren that are helping me some. Well, one of them's only 4 years old. He can't help much right now. He's wanting to, but I have a 9-year-old grandson and a 13-year-old that have been out here working and helping me this year quite well. My granddaughter, she stays busy with other activities pretty much. And so my family came through the Christmas trees. When I first got married, my wife helped me plant trees, and she was glad when the boys got old enough to do that.
name is Catherine Griffin, and I am making a wreath here at Griffin's Evergreens. I am the owner, A.K. Griffin's daughter-in-law, and I've actually just learned this year how to make wreaths, and I love it. It's a lot of fun. Right here, this is our ring that we use to start our wreaths, and the beginning process is a little tricky sometimes, but we make it work. And if you look up here, we have other wreath sizes. So the one I'm making is a 12-inch. And then we also have a 20-inch, and I don't know if your camera can get it, but there's also a very, very, very big one. We don't make those very often, but we do have them in case someone wants one. So I'll go ahead and get started. This little machine is very, very nifty.
Okay, I'm just going to do your hands now.
Okay. And I try to make them all different sizes and shapes. I try to get them as full as I can sometimes. Sometimes I make smaller ones for people that might not have as big a space to put one. This one I'll try to make full.
Where do you get your pieces and supplies for these wreaths?
Okay, so these right here are Fraser firs, and they're taking off clippings from the Fraser firs that we sell on the lot. And then these, here I'm going to actually take a pine first. I think the pines are prettier if they put this first. And then we get the pines from back in our lot back here, the trees that we grow. And then we also have, I'm kind of picky, a Leland cypress as well. Here, I'll kind of hold that up so you can see it. That's a Leland cypress, a variety that we grow here on the farm. And then normally, I just take them, and I'm kind of picky when I make them. Some people aren't as picky as me, the pieces that they pick. But so we take them, and to get them started, we put them in our wreath maker. And you can't see it back here, but I have a pretty little foot pedal that I'm going to take, and it's going to push these prongs down and attach them in. And so what we like to do to make sure they're secure, when we're going to turn it, we like to take every leaf and make sure that it's pronged twice so that they're not going to fall out. Because if they're only pronged once, they might slip and fall out. We don't want that to happen. So, and then that right there was the beginning process. And then all we do is just take our firs, and then I try to piece them together, make them pretty. And then take a pine, and then take a piece of, take a Leland cypress and put it in here. And see, like that one, I don't like that one as much. It's not as full in the back, so sometimes I will try to find another piece that fits in there prettier and throw it in there. And then just take them and push them in. And I just take with my foot pedal back here and clamp it down. And it don't have to be super tight, but enough to hold them down. And then we turn, and then we just repeat the same process all the way around.
Is this the last one?
Okay, so do you want
Yeah,
me
you
to talk
can,
about
you can talk about it.
Okay, so we're almost at the last one. I have 2 prongs left, and so I have to feel the second to the last one and clamp it down. And this is where it gets tricky sometimes, where you can't see as well.
Watch your fingers.
Yes, watch your fingers. Alright, I think I got it in there. And then, so I've added all that I'm going to add, because when I put the first one down, I had already added some to my last prong over here. And so now all I have to do, and this is the tricky part, starting them and finishing them are the hardest parts. Find your prong over here. And then get everything tucked in there. And I like to leave a little bit out just so it doesn't look as perfect. And then I can take those that I left out and fluff over here. And then we have a finished wreath.
Very nice. Can we see the back too?
Yeah, sure. If you look right here, you can see all those prongs that's holding all the foliage in, each of the different ones. And this again is a 12-inch wreath. You put a pretty bow on here and hang it on your door.
So how long would it take you to make one of these if we weren't here? Any idea?
Maybe 10 minutes.
10 minutes?
Yeah, if I was rolling and I had all my foliage cut, it wouldn't take me too long.
So I understand you're making them today because you sold out
Yes.
over the weekend and over the
Yes.
Thanksgiving.
I was making them as fast as people were picking them up. I walked out with one and the lady said, "Oh, I think I'll take that one instead." We have been very, very lucky this year. We've been busy and people like their wreaths. So thankfully we're able to keep making them and keep making people happy.
All right. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Inches. Okay. Thank you. Good. That's it.
Okay. A friend of mine where I worked talked me into planting a few Christmas trees as a hobby. And he had been in the business a while. He told me the type trees that I could grow here in Lee County. And he was growing trees in the mountains. And he was, of course, growing Fraser fir up there, but they don't do well here. But white pine, Scotch pine, Virginia pines, they grow well. Eastern red cedar, I started out with a lot of those. And later on came the Leland cypress, the green giant arborvitaes, the Carolina sapphires I learned about. And I've tried all of those. They do quite well. And about like I said, the first ones I planted were 1970. Started selling what I grew about 1975. And then people started asking for fir trees. So I made arrangements in 1980 to get a few fir trees, and they sold very well. And added a few more trees the next year. And we've been adding some most years and building it up a pretty good Fraser fir business here. Plus we're selling our trees choose and cut out of the field. And it's grown into more than just a hobby.
Right.
And anybody wants to get into the business, if you really know farming or want to learn about farming, it's a good crop to grow. To me, it's a lot of fun. I love seeing the little kids come out here to try and pick out a Christmas tree. That's what really makes it interesting. But don't fool yourself. You don't just plant the trees and come back in a few years and cut them. There's work to be done every year, and some years just about year round. It's just another farm crop. And if you've ever farmed, you know it's a lot of work. But Christmas trees can be a lot of fun.
Mr. Griffin, what kind of variety is this, you said?
That is a momi fir, M-O-M-I. It's a native of Japan.
Okay. Okay, now what? Let's see. There's a couple of different varieties here. What are these two?
That,
Yeah, this one and that one.
this is green giant arborvitae. Is a very, it's a popular tree. And if you leave it alone, it'll keep a natural Christmas tree shape.
Oh, really?
But it will be thicker and more appealing when we shear it.
Right.
But even unsheared, it's got the shape.
Okay.
Here, and this one here, this one is the eastern white pine.
Eastern white pine.
They grow very well here. This tree is probably 6 to 8 years old. Probably 8 years old.
Pretty good sized tree.
Yes, it is. And they will get, around here, 30, 40 feet tall.
Wow.
But after about 20, 25 years, most of the time they'll start dying. We're on the extreme eastern boundary of their natural habitat. But for young trees, they do real well. You go west into the Piedmont, they're in their own element, and they grow into timber trees there.
Right.
And on into the mountains.
Okay.
Not every year do we plant, but every other year anyway, and sometimes every year. Have some coming along. You don't want to clear cut everything and then replant, because you're going to be several years with no trees to sell. Now, I know some people, if they get some of the pines that they think are exceptionally beautiful, different from the others, and they want more exactly like that, they'll take cuttings and root them, because it's going to be exactly like its parent. Growing from seed, it gets pollinated from other trees, and it may not be exactly like its parent tree. It'll be close, but maybe not exactly.
Right.
So if you want it to come back exactly like the parent, take a cutting and root it. And some of the trees you have to do that because they just don't make good seed.
Right.
If they make seed at all.
So people don't quite understand how a Christmas tree farm works. You know, you were talking about how it takes a couple of years to grow, but a lot of people don't understand that those few years that your Christmas tree's growing, you're not making any money off that Christmas tree, correct?
That's right.
You plant it, you do work on it for 7 to 10 years, however long you keep that particular tree, and then you harvest it.
That's right.
Correct?
That's correct.
So you really got to kind of know what you want to sell in 7 to 10 years.
That's correct, and you hope you guess right. If you miss it, people's tastes change. Well, you'll sell a few trees, but you might not sell as many as you would.
Right.
For quite a few years now, my counterparts in the mountains that grow the Fraser fir, they have learned to do an excellent job growing it. It's a wonderful Christmas tree, holds its needles well, and it'll last through the Christmas season without getting too dry. As they call it the perfect Christmas tree, and it's the best description I can think of. They're talking 10 years to grow one to go the right size to go in your living room.
Wow.
And it's the same with any other. You don't harvest the same plant every year. It's not like, say, a grape vineyard, where in 3 years after you plant it, you're picking grapes. And from then on, every year, you'll pick grapes. But that's not the case with a Christmas tree. You've got the growing time, and then when you cut it, you have to plant one to replace it. Some growers, large growers that are growing a lot of trees that have many acres, they'll have a plot, they'll get it up to size, and they'll clear cut it. And then come, because they've got plenty more growing.
Right.
And then they'll come back and they'll plant that whole plot the next year. And they'll farm it up for the next 10 years, 8 to 10 years, to get them up to size. In the meantime, they go to another plot
Right.
and we'll clear cut it and then replant it over the years. And after about 10 years, that last one, that 10th one that they cut will be planted in the little trees, but they can go back to that first one.
Right.
Because they're up there big enough to harvest. And some are able to do that if they have enough land.
That's the problem, finding enough land.
Yeah, you got to have enough land to do it. And I have approximately 9 acres here. Only have about 3.5 acres in Christmas trees. My son has a few pecan trees here as well. Plus I have some open land over there that I can have a nice garden spot if I want to, or if I want to plant some produce to sell. Also, we have some wetland around the edges that you don't do much with.
Right.
And
well, now just because you plant a Christmas tree doesn't mean you'll ever get to harvest it, correct?
true, sometimes you'll have disease get into them. Sometimes they just won't shape up like you want them to. Use all the creative shearing you can, pruning, and they still just don't shape up and make a pretty tree. You'll have a few Charlie Brown trees.
Right.
And but believe it or not, I have customers that come and ask, do you have any Charlie Brown trees? So that's what we'll show them.
Right.
And they do buy some Charlie Brown trees, but that cartoon has been wonderful for Christmas tree growers, for people wanting the Charlie Brown tree. Unfortunately, in recent years, the Leland cypress, it's used a lot in the landscape as well as Christmas trees. We have Passiflora fungus has gotten into them across the state, and you'll see them in the landscape and in Christmas tree fields, that if you don't spray every week or two in warm weather, it'll kill the tree.
Wow.
They'll turn brown and die. Also, we have Ceridium canker in the area now. It's not as bad as the Passiflora, but I have lost a few big trees, and it'll kill them quick. And the Ceridium canker. Some of the trees will get bagworms. So you got to spray for that, spray for them. Or if it's not too bad and only a few trees, you can pull the cocoons off by hand. And in fact, when I first started planting Leland cypress, the only pest I had to worry about much was bagworms.
Really?
And they've never been too bad here. I'll get them occasionally. But then the Passiflora fungus and the Ceridium canker moved in, and it's all over the state now. And there are fungus diseases that you can spray for and get it under control. I don't like to spray. A lot of my customers don't want a tree that's had pesticide on it. Also, spraying is expensive.
Right.
That hits the bottom line.
Yeah.
So we have a test plot with NC State in the back of Leland cypress right now from some trees that came from Louisiana that we think are resistant to the Passiflora fungus. We're waiting to see. They're young trees, about shoulder high, some of them. They've been out there about 2 or 3 years, and we've got high hopes for them. So far, no sign of any Passiflora.
Well, one disease that I've been hearing a lot of lately about seems to be in this area especially, and also across North Carolina, is Phytophthora.
Phytophthora, that's a soil-borne disease, and it attacks the root system, and it will kill a tree. And once you get it in the soil, it's hard to get rid of. They've been hit hard by it in the mountains.
Right.
And if we get it here, in a way we're lucky. We clear the field out and come in and fumigate the soil. There are fumigants that will kill it. And we're able to more or less keep it under control. In the mountains, on those hillsides, it's not that easy.
Right.
It's a different story. So a lot of them just turn their back on the field.
Right.
And wait and see. Maybe in years to come it'll die out. Don't know. Or they'll come up with another solution of getting rid of it. We're hopeful for it. But you can ride through the mountains and see acres and acres of brazier fir growing on the hillside, and see where they have phytophthora, because you'll see dead trees through it, patches of it, and sometimes they'll take out an entire field.
That gets expensive. You have to wait that many years to grow trees, and then you lose them.
Yeah, you see fields of trees up there. The trees are this tall and are dying. Makes you want to cry.
It does, yeah. Well, another question I get asked a lot is, what steps should I take, or should someone take, to keep their tree alive during the Christmas season?
Make sure you have a fresh cut on the bottom of the tree when you put it in the stand. That way it will take the water better. If it's, say, a fir that's been cut for several days or a week or two, an 8-foot tree, it may use a gallon of water the first 24 hours that you put it up in the stand. So pay close attention to the water in. Give it plenty of water. Do not let the bottom dry out during the holidays. And they usually stay nice and fresh and in good shape until January.
Okay. So just keep it watered and keep a good fresh cut on it.
If you don't keep it watered, it's going to dry out fast and become a fire hazard.
Okay.
Now, Christmas trees don't start fires. They don't cause the fires. Something else causes it. If it's dried out, it just provides fuel for it. A choosing cut tree, the customer's standing there watching you cut it down. When it leaves, it's got a fresh cut on the bottom. Get it in water as soon as possible. I've heard people say they put aspirin in the water to help it out. Might help if you think the tree has a headache.
Right.
Some say put sugar.
I've heard that one.
I've heard to put 7-Up, Sprite. I don't know if they do any good, but they're not going to hurt it, I don't think. But I do know the water is important.
Right.
Now, I had one customer tell me he puts a spoonful of Miracle Grow in his water. That one might make a little sense. That one to me makes a little sense. How much good it does, I don't know. But like I say, the water is important.
Okay.